Thanks for joining me, everyone. Charles Moscowitz here. So what have we learned so far from the impeachment imbroglio? Well, we've learned a couple of things that derive from this, from Trump derangement, which of course has been a condition that's been in place since President Trump was elected. Firstly, we've learned that you can be charged with a crime for criticizing an investigation, an inquiry. They can call that obstruction of justice, just criticizing something or in any way raising your hand in protest against something. That's called obstruction of justice now for the Trump haters. That you could be charged with a process crime. A process crime, as opposed to a crime under our laws, has to do with saying something that might not be technically true at a particular moment in time. Were you at the Astoria Hotel on March 4th or March 5th? I was there March 5th. And in fact, they look at the record and find out you were there March 4th. Thus, you can be accused of a process crime, and you could go to prison for that. We've learned that you can be dragged out of your home at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're in your 80s by a team of over 20 SWAT members, officers dressed in military garb, and have your door knocked down. And we can learn that outside the door, sitting on the lawn, can be a major media outlet, like let's say CNN, as was the case with Roger Stone, filming the whole thing because they were told in advance about the quote-unquote raid, when in fact they simply could have asked Roger Stone to come downtown. He was happy to turn himself in for questioning and released immediately. So we've learned that there are new tactics that are now permissible in this country in the course of an investigation. And we've learned that those very same tactics, if you're on the right side, if you're in the state party, so to speak, similar to what you might see in a communist country, that those things are not only condoned, but they're celebrated. They're called progress. This is a great day in American history, right? We've learned that a man can have his past tax returns, that it's okay to have those subpoenaed so that there can be a fishing expedition long after the fact to find out, not if you've committed a crime, but just to see if there's anything in there that might look silly or embarrassing. Maybe in 20 years ago, you might have taken a tax deduction for having strippers at a party, and then have that used in the media and trumpeted loudly so that everybody can hold it up and say and look at another example. We can learn that you can be removed from office. You could be impeached for conducting diplomacy. And not only that, but conducting it in such a way that you're asking a foreign country to investigate corruption, especially when American politicians might be involved. But if the American politician involved in gross corruption or alleged gross corruption is a member of the other party or is running against you, then that becomes a crime, you see, right? I mean, apparently what President Trump did when he spoke with the new head of state of Ukraine is perfectly legal, at least it used to be. It used to be called diplomacy. The only time something like that could become even remotely illegal is if President Trump asked the foreign leader to do something corrupt, something, wrong, something illegal, which of course he wasn't. He was asking him to investigate corruption, but very well could be the case with other presidents in the past. But that's a subject for another day. So far we've learned a lot from the Trump impeachment, haven't we? We've learned new laws that are in place now in America and how they're to be applied to American citizens who don't goose step to the state party, that being the Democrats, who control the culture. All I can say is I'm sure in the coming days, as this farce unfolds, we're going to be learning more and more as we see people get up and testify based on hearsay. They heard something secondhand or thirdhand and have that trumpeted as a great bulletin. I can just see the Boston Globe now send me a breaking news, a bulletin, right? Like they've done in the past with Stormy Daniels, to see that this earth-shattering story that somebody said something in their opinion didn't look right because they'd heard it from a second or third-hand source, and well, impeach him immediately. So I'm going to be checking in, obviously, as best I can, probably on a daily basis, to give updates on this impeachment farce. But as it stands right now, I think this thing is going to backfire in a big way on the liberal Dems, because now President Trump has called their bluff and he's forced their illegal, behind-the-doors, star chamber, Gestapo-like hearing to be brought out into the public, and he's forced Democrats to vote for it. I think that they should all be opposed by other Democrats and by Republicans who have a half a brain and who will ask them exactly what was appropriate here in terms of impeachable offenses that would warrant this investigation. They should be asked that question. They should be forced to answer it. But in the meantime, the hearings will be going on. We'll see the emptiness of it. They've got nothing. They're going to come up empty. And now President Trump, in his genius, has forced it to be out in the open. And, believe me, I don't see Democrats, frankly, celebrating this. You would think, I know I did a video a few days ago saying that I thought there would be a hate campaign that would rise to a frenzy of irrationality and rage. But I don't see that happening. Now that the Congress has voted, this House has voted to formalize this committee, I see nothing but silence from the liberal Dems. They're fearful. They're probably getting a ton of phone calls from their constituents criticizing them. They're looking at the future now and they're wondering, I don't know if this is going to fly. I think the American people maybe actually are smarter, and they certainly have become a lot smarter since the advent of President Trump and a wakening up of Americans. So I think they're shaking in their boots, and I think that they very well fear and probably will experience the ramifications of this in the next election, when President Trump is elected with a larger majority and when the Democrats lose seats in the House. Now, the goose steppers and the brain-dead liberals, like, for example, many of whom are in my home state of Massachusetts, they don't care. They're going to hold, they're blinded. These people are completely deluded. They'll vote for this. But enough of the country, a good slice of the country, is waking up. And I think that rationality can shave off a few votes and bring the appropriate results. But I shall return, God willing, with more reports as the week goes on and as these hearings and as this farce unfolds. I want to thank you for joining me, Charles Moscowitz. Have a great day.